This is
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday. You know what that means. It's time for our weekly award-winning segment with the founder of the largest online progressive community and I would say the largest ongoing polling service with the largest sample size in terms of an ongoing polling service, that's Civics with a Q. Markos Moultisas joins us. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Just good. Just fine.
Yeah.
So I noticed on the brief on Tuesday, you were talking a little bit about Georgia and the different constituencies that got the votes out. I mean, and we know a lot about the African-American electorate vis-a-vis states they able.
Right.
But it was also the Asian American community that showed up strong in Georgia too, didn't it?
Yeah, there was about 265,000 more Asians voted between 2016 and 2020. And while we don't know exactly how they broke down, modeling suggests it might have been about 82 to 10 to 82 to 15. So that would suggest a couple 100,000 plus votes for the Democrats. Remember, Democrats got 600,000 more votes between 2016 and 2020. Mm-hmm. And that Asian community, which is only 4% of Georgia, but that was a big chunk of votes. And remember, Joe Biden only won Georgia by 12,000 votes. And when an election is that close, everybody was the winning margin, right? I mean, the Black community, obviously, winning margin, suburban white women, winning margin, Asians, winning margin, Latinos, winning margin. And all of those had to turn out. And there was groups that were doing incredible work focused on each one of those communities. And one of the things that I've sort of really been talking about since the election is how important these on-the-ground organizers are, turning out the Asian vote or the Black vote in Georgia or the Native American Indian vote in Arizona. These groups do more work to turn out votes at less cost than all those fancy consultants with their TV ads and their direct mail. And quite frankly, it's almost distressing to me seeing the amount of money that was just pissed away on TV ads that don't change any votes, that don't build any kind of lasting infrastructure, when you have these groups literally talking to non-voters and getting them to turn out when they're struggling just to raise $10,000 here, $15,000 there. And then you have campaigns dropping tens and hundreds of millions of dollars on TV ads. So I'd love to see a shift in progressive giving. You still campaigns need a basic amount, but when Jamie Harrison raises $58 million, and he's asking for money the weekend before the election for more TV ads that didn't change a single vote, I'd rather have seen that money be spent on these groups doing that on-the-ground organizing, because they're the ones that are literally dragging people to the polls.
Spoke with Rachel Bitterkoff the other day, and she became famous for predicting the 2018 so well. But she said the same thing to me, how the Democrats, once again, and it's like all of us tend to be on the same page these days, getting away from this consultant stuff, putting money in communities and matter on the ground. And she was stressing how important that is in Georgia. Otherwise, this will be another blown opportunity. And obviously you'd agree. I'm not sure yet. I mean, I know groups that, put it this way, just like in what you described, a lot of our groups do what they need to do, Markos, in spite of the consultant class. They just go ahead and do it. You know, they don't wait on a consultant class. But imagine if a lot of our groups had even more on the ground support and investment, they could be even more effective, couldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, you look at these, the person we were interviewing on the brief this week's the brief. Her name's Aisha, and she is the director of what was the name? The Asian American Advocacy Fund, and shoestring budget. And they were calling they think they called almost every single Asian American living in the greater Atlanta area. And so you're looking at 260,000 new Asian American votes from 2016 to 2020, overwhelmingly went for Biden. And you have by far the winning margin. This group doesn't exist. You probably don't get enough of those Asians to create that 12,000 vote buffer. And that goes for every organization that is doing this sort of in the ground community work in Georgia, targeting the Black community, the Latino community, young voters as well. And right now there's groups that are focused on registering voters who turned 18 in the middle, right? In this 2-month frame, right? There's 20-some thousand voters. These numbers matter when something is going to be as close as it looks like it's going to be. So that is money that actually literally is getting votes. You fund these organizations, it is translating to votes. We saw that in Arizona, where Biden won it by 10,000 votes. The Native community provided probably about 100,000 vote margin for Joe Biden. And if you look at the map of where American Indians live in Arizona, it is literally blue. It is the overlay of the counties of the areas that Joe Biden won. Mm-hmm. That was the margin of victory. And so we can talk about the importance of suburban white women, and I don't ever want to discount them because they also delivered the margin of victory, right? But you needed all these groups. And if we didn't turn out our core communities of color, if we didn't turn out youth vote, the youth vote was 60%, I think, higher than the previous record. If those don't turn out, Joe Biden is not president. And if we invest more in those organizations that are doing this great work, we may be, Arizona and Georgia can start becoming more like Colorado and Virginia. They were red states that became competitive for about 2 cycles, and then boom, now they're safely blue states or core base Democratic states. And so we can do that in Arizona and Georgia if we support these groups targeting the Native vote and Asian vote, the Black vote, Latino vote. Obviously, the same thing in Texas. Now, in Georgia, it's happened. It's no accident that 600,000 more Democratic votes sort of popped up between 2016 and 2020. It wasn't just, oops, here they are, 600,000. Like Stacey Abrams led that charge to invest in those on-the-ground Georgia organizations. And talking to the Asian American Advocacy Fund, they got their start working with Stacey Abrams, right? So you had somebody who had that magnetic ability to draw people in and their money. And wow, like a red state, a slight red state became a purple state pretty much overnight. And so that can happen. I mean, we continue to make gains in Texas. We didn't win it this year, but it's getting closer and closer. And Democrats at the party level didn't put an investment in Texas because Biden didn't need Texas. And so he's not going to spend his time and, enough of his money to really fight for it. But it went from being a 15-point Romney state to a 9-point, Trump the first time only won it by 9. This time Trump won it by 6, right? So it's moving gradually in our direction, and people are doing this long-term organizing and building and getting people registered and turning out to vote. It's going to be probably next, I'm sure 4 years from now, it is a legitimate purple state. This time it was on the teetering, it was on the brink, right? It is now a legitimate purple state. Iowa's not a purple state anymore. Iowa's a red state. Ohio's a red state. I mean, they've gone the way of Missouri. So we have to sort of shift our thinking and our expectations away from the old maps to these new maps. And the reason that Iowa and Ohio are no longer purple states, it's because they're all white. They are very, very white states. I mean, you think Ohio might think of Cleveland, right? But no, Ohio is a very white state. And the states that are sort of becoming the new battlegrounds are all insanely diverse, like Georgia, Texas, Arizona. And Mark, I keep saying this, nobody believes me, but South Carolina and Mississippi, they're next. They're next. After Texas, South Carolina, and Mississippi, demographically, they are they're not, because there's not a lot of investment there yet, but they are moving slightly in our direction. And if people did the kind of work that they did in Georgia, Mississippi can be a purple state. It's 40% African American. And the reason it's so solidly Republican is because, one, that Black community doesn't vote at its percentage of the population. It underperforms. And white voters in Mississippi are like 90% Republican, right? I mean, there's like some whites that live in some of the cities, right? They'll be more liberal, but anybody that's living outside of the cities and is white in Mississippi is Republican. But again, that's a demographic that's exiting the electorate, right? I mean, they're older. They're dying off. Younger white Mississippians aren't as Republican, and obviously the Black community is growing. There's a small but growing Latino community. These numbers are making these states competitive, but not by accident. Nobody's focusing. I mean, not nobody. There are groups in Mississippi, but they're severely underfunded. Like there's no Stacey Abrams in Mississippi yet. Right. Georgia was lucky that they had Stacey Abrams. Texas is lucky that they had Beto. Beto's doing amazing work organizing, right? So they have these high-profile figures that are really bringing a lot of money and attention into organizing those states. We need that in South Carolina. Maybe it'll be Jamie Harrison. We need that although Jamie Harrison, everything I'm hearing, he's going to be DNC chair.
Okay,
that's the word coming down from people that are in the DNC itself. Mississippi, like we don't have that high profile figure that can really rally nationally. But those are states that can and will move in our direction if there's a proper investment in it. And remember that we're stuck in this world where rural small states get a disproportionate voice in our politics, definitely in the presidency, but especially in the Senate. So if any of these states that are right now Republican held, if we can start chipping away at those and making them competitive at the Senate level, you start getting closer to evening out that imbalance. And so Georgia, we're going from two red senators, two Republican senators, to hopefully two blue senators, two Democrats overnight. That's the kind of changes that can happen, but obviously we need to work in them. And these organizations on the ground are doing that work.
Yeah, no, that's important, obviously. So are you feeling any more confident about Georgia?
I have no idea what to expect, right? I haven't seen any updated numbers on early vote other than people saying it looks great, but there's no apples to apples comparison because we didn't have this kind of early vote in a runoff ever, because people weren't doing early vote pre-COVID at these numbers, and we've never had a runoff of this high profile and this much attention given to it. I'm encouraged by all the infighting with the Republican Party. I mean, they're a mess right now. Yeah. I'm encouraged that there doesn't seem to be a problem raising money for our candidates and organizations. They seem to be they have the resources that they need. But whether our hard to turn out demographics actually turn out again, that's a big wild card. We don't know that. And we also don't know if the hidden deplorables, these Trump-only voters, if they're going to turn out. If they turn out, it's going to be really, really hard, and it's going to be really, really close. If they don't turn out, less so. So there's a lot of wild cards in a pretty much unprecedented political situation. It's a national election in one state. So am I optimistic? I'm scared. I'm hopeful. It's definitely winnable. We won it last time. So yeah. If we get our people out the way we did in November, then we win. They're maxed out. They're not gonna get more than Donald Trump did. So if we get our people out, then we win. I just don't know, because we just haven't had this situation before.
Speaking of the infighting, the Secretary of State having to defend himself from violent threats, which, and I guess he and others feel like, I don't need to continue to enable Donald Trump or allow this to happen. I'm going to speak out on my own behalf. I'm sure he has a family. They're concerned. You start threatening people like that for no reason. What is he supposed to do? I mean, it's not. It was not. The margin was not close enough for them to fix it. And I think if it were like Florida, they probably would have turned some type of trick, but it didn't work out that way.
Well, they did it with Stacey Abrams, right? I mean, it's not like this is unprecedented.
Right.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out this time. You also, you have Roger Stone saying don't vote, but then Trump, I hear, is threatening to go to Georgia. That I'm wondering if that won't help our Democratic candidates if he shows up in Georgia. And goes.
I hope he does go. And there's actually from reports, there's a debate inside the White House where some people are trying to argue that it would not be helpful because he's not going to go there and talk about Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, right? I mean, he's going to be on stage talking about how it was stolen from him, how Brian Kemp, the Republican governor, and the Republican Secretary of State stole it from them, and how it's all rigged and how the voting machines are rigged. And so they can't expect him to be there to actually pump up those candidates. He's going to actually go up there to make it all about himself. And Mark, we talked about how in 2019 there was evidence that Republican candidates underperformed in counties where he campaigned, where he actually held rallies, right? Well, the verdict is in for 2020, and Trump underperformed the counties that he actually held rallies in compared to his numbers in the rest of those states in the country. So there is now much more evidence that his rallies do not help locally. Now, in a national election, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe having Fox News run your rally is a net plus nationally, even if locally it hurts you. But in Georgia, it's all local. So what does it matter if people in Texas, Republicans in Texas, are all excited about Trump doing another rally if it actually depresses that local? And a lot of it was, Mark, because of the local coverage was just terrible, right? COVID super spreader events, leaving people out in the cold. So the way that they did those rallies really were unsafe and led to a lot of negative headlines. So it makes sense that locally it would be a negative. So the same thing will happen if he shows up in Texas. All the Georgia newspapers will talk about the super spreader events and how irresponsible and unsafe they are. And so again, you can't expect massive defections, right? That's not going to happen. What you can see is margins here and there, right? Like, you lose 0.5% because Roger Stone says don't vote and are running billboards saying don't vote for these Republicans, right? Republicans running billboards saying don't vote for those Republicans. It may shave 0.5 point here, 1/4 point there, but in a close election like November was, which was 0.3%, I think was the final margin, those numbers could end up being the margin of victory for the Democrats. So I would rather be us than them, but it may be. So right now in the House, U.S. House, in 5 races, Democrats have lost by less than 1,000 points. So there's a race in Iowa where we probably lost by about 6 votes. 6 votes. There's a race in New York which looks like we lost by about 13 votes. I mean, these are the kind of margins that we're seeing. And this time, because the deplorables came out for Trump, we are on, about 5 of those races that we lost by nothing, by a sliver of a sliver. And it really eats away at our margins in the House. That may be what's happening in Georgia, right? We may lose these by 15 votes, by 20 votes. I mean, it is happening. It has happened. It is that close. And Georgia is that sort of evenly divided. So it really comes to who gets out the vote best. And anything that depresses that excitement and that energy, I think is a plus for us.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, to your theory, we won't know till it happens because this is such an extraordinary situation. Special election. do the deplorable show up if Trump is not on the ballot? And that's the question. So this will be a little test case or OJT, if you will, folks, because we just don't know at this point. Hopefully they won't show up, but we should organize, as Markos has said in the past, as if they are going to show up. Speaking of the infighting, a lot of craziness. Joseph DeGeneva, Giuliani, Bill Barr, even now saying that there's no there. But it's really, so the issue too of people offering money for pardons. And then would you consider pardoning your children before they've even been charged with anything, unless you know what your children did and they know what they did? I mean, you and I, Markos, right now, today, aren't walking around living our lives worried that we're going to be prosecuted for something, right? Because we haven't done anything. We just living and breathing. But these people, I've never heard of pre-pardoning because they expect that they're going to be hearing. Now, I want me to think to state and local prosecutors. Yeah. It's doubtful that the DOJ is going to prosecute any of them because that's just not what the DOJ does to predecessor presidents. But it's just amazing to me. And also, let me throw this out there. You can address all of it. You've been talking about the grift. And I've heard you say that, but it's becoming even more crystallized for me because when you look at what he's doing, which makes no sense, it's no logical sense, but it's bringing in money. So you're getting your sycophants to send you their small dollar donations because you're probably going to need a legal fund, one. And when you've lived your whole life hustling and stealing from people, Trump shuttle, Trump steaks, Trump University, Trump wine, whatever it was, it's always, so this is the latest commodity. Trump, I guess you call it Trump legacy or Trump save my ass, whatever it is. But it's just like Trump University and Trump steaks and everything else. Nothing. But people, there's still a group of people in this country that wants to give money to his name and that cause. And just like people still, I don't want to say why people still give money to 700 Club. You know,
I saw a couple of days ago, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was like he had raised $160 million since the election, which I think is more than he raised in the month before the election. It was close to. He's thinking, I concede, and that money spigot is shut off.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna concede, and in fact, all the new reports are that he's gonna announce his 2024 candidacy on Inauguration Day. He thinks he'll step on Joe Biden. It's gonna be the other way around, but I think he thinks that he can keep that money spigot running every month through 2024, right? And he owes $400 million on loans, so he's thinking he's gonna grift this money. I suspect it'll dry up. Most of that will dry up, but it'll, some will still trickle in, and he needs all the money he can get, and all of that's going to be grifted. It's just literally going to go into his pockets. I mean, there's just no doubt about it that it's just it's going to be spent on building his brand and more fundraising, and the Rubes will keep giving him money that they don't have because his base of support is actually it's a hidden deplorables, right? It's poor white people out in rural America. And the incentives here are skewed. Now, pardons-wise, it's clear that pardons need to be reformed. And maybe there might be bipartisan support for doing something about that. It would have to be a constitutional amendment because, we hear that they're investigating that, somebody would try to pay for pardons. You can do it, right? What's there to stop him, right? What, you can indict the guy for trying to bribe the president? Trump pardons him. And in the end, he gets the pardon he wanted anyway, right? And then what's the consequences? You can indict the president for that? He'll pardon himself.
Yeah.
And
can he do that?
It's never been tested. It has never, because nobody's been stupid enough to try. Trump will try, and he's got a 6-3 Supreme Court, and Roberts probably won't vote to say you can pardon yourself, but I don't trust the other 5.
No.
And so there may literally be precedents of him pardoning himself, which literally means he can run a criminal enterprise openly from the White House, and there's nothing anybody can do about that. And so that is definitely ripe for some kind of constitutional amendment reform to make that a much more restricted and constrained power.
I still feel as if they still have a trick up their sleeve when it comes to electoral college. Like they're still going to try something. Now, a member of Congress, and one of them, I can't think of his name right now, is planning on contesting or raising objection, but you need a senator to sign off on it.
It still doesn't matter. All it does is it means that both chambers have a vote. Mm-hmm. And it won't even be close in either chamber.
Okay.
In fact, I would bet it's surprising. It's Mo Brooks who in the House who's already said he's going to contest. It is actually shocking that he doesn't have anybody in the Senate yet. You would think that Rand Paul or Ted Cruz would be jumping at the chance to do so, because they're all prepping for 2024. I think it's a good bet to assume that Donald Trump won't make it to 2024. He's not going to be running for president in 2024. He may, but his health is crap and he's getting old. And Melania is going to leave his ass, so he's going to look stupid, and he might even be criminally indicted.
Yeah.
So the idea that he might even be eligible to vote or alive or in any kind of mental state to be able to function is suspect at best. So if I'm a Ted Cruz or Rand Paul who thinks they're going to be president someday, it's not a bad bet. Or Arkansas guy, what's his name in Arkansas?
Huckabee.
No, the other one, the guy who's obsessed with Iran. Anyway, they all think they're going to be president. It'd be an easy way to get brownie points with the deplorables, but nobody stepped forward yet. And I bet you it's because McConnell is saying, "Don't you frickin' dare," because they would then all have to vote and be on the record, and you're going to get Republicans who don't want to go on the record saying, "I am opposed to democracy." Literally, that's what you're doing. At that point, if you're saying we are voting for Donald Trump, you're saying we are overturning the will of the American people. Mm. And while I have no doubt that on their own, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, they don't give enough. I think they would do it in a heartbeat just for those easy political points. I have no doubt that the rest of the caucus is saying, like, do not put us in that place where we have to make that kind of vote, because it's not a vote we want to take. And that's why nobody took it. And this is what happened in 2000, actually. I think it was Barbara Lee who contested George Bush's election because of the Florida recount. There was even more of a case then, right? Because that Florida recount was a farce.
Yeah.
And not a single Democratic senator actually objected. And I think it's a really difficult place, and now even more so for Republicans, because there's really no evidence, no reason to suggest that Donald Trump may have won.
Yeah. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. That was a very famous opening scene in Fahrenheit 9/11.
Yeah.
A number of Black Caucus members, including Maxine Waters, and Al Gore, presiding over his own demise, as the Senate president said, because he was still vice president, would ask each one that has a senator sign, and they were like, "No." We asked Maxine, "Has a senator signed your concern?" And she said, "No, and I don't care that a senator has not signed." And Al said, "Well, the rules do care, but that was a lighter moment." I want to go back for a minute, though, to all the different constituencies of color. What you are describing, and I hope people get this too, if you've been following the news closely, a lot of these constituencies, including African Americans, Asians, and others, have been requesting meetings with the Biden transition team and not getting them, have been requesting that there be even more and better appointments. There are a lot of deputy constituencies of color represented, but people saying, wait a minute, what about people at the top actually making decisions? So yeah, that makes perfect sense, especially as we're learning, and you've described, Markos, the difference these groups made in getting Biden elected. Now, Biden said, of course, Black community had his back, he'd have ours. As far as the NAACP, the legacy civil rights organizations, the Black church community and others, they're like, but you haven't yet, as far as we're concerned. So, you know, I guess my caution is, as we talk about the consultant class during election time, there is a consultant class that hovers during transition time, and maybe even when we start getting into the early days. And it's just not good. It's not helpful. But we don't need to be going into Georgia with every Black organization, every Asian organization, every Native American organization. Adam Best tweeted the other day, you know, they want to reward Cindy McCain with them. And I don't dislike Cindy McCain, but the point is, she delivered Arizona. And the Native American community said, no, she didn't. Yeah, so get that out of your head. She did what she did, but the Native American community, and the Latinx community. So I think, again, I hope they don't let this consultant class F them up in the process, so that it undermines us in Georgia and undermines the first 100 days of his administration. And listen, the legacy civil rights organizations are not the most radical ones. They aren't the defund the police organizations, so to speak. You can't, as Joe Biden, not meet with the NAACP, and you, Joe Biden, are a life member of the NAACP. So,
I mean, he's not meeting because, like, he's literally saying no, or is it just hasn't gotten scheduled?
Unresponsive.
Yeah, that, I mean, I hate to say that, but that could be as simple as just disorganization as they're trying to get set up, and there's a lot of pressure on the Biden to have everybody ready to go on day one, literally, because McConnell will try to do anything else to slow things down and to drag things out, and even if we don't take control of the Senate, and even if we have the Susan Collins, Murkowski, and Romney helping confirm Biden appointees, stuff could get dragged out quite a bit, and so they're running like chickens with their head cut off right now, pretty much. So I hope that's that. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's been a couple of weeks, and they're all it's pretty chaotic as they try to just organize. And Mark, somebody in the transition team sent me asked me if I wanted to apply for any job in the administration, and they sent me a list of positions that are open. It's like 10,000. I mean, it is absolutely insane how ginormous the federal bureaucracy is, and how many agencies and commissions and councils and I mean, I said I didn't want any. Just to be clear. Thank you very much, but no, I like what I'm doing right now. But it just really brought home to me what a massive logistical challenge this is. Now, do they need to meet with the NAACP? Obviously, I mean, that's a no-brainer. So if they're not organized enough, they at least should be organized for that.
Yeah.
If nothing else. Right. For real.
Again, folks, these are the groups that help make it happen. So we will see. Prediction: Trump going to go? Is he going to go to the inauguration? You think?
No, he already said he's not.
Oh,
no, did he? No, I actually I don't know if he said he's not, but all the reporting says is that no, he's going to do that. He's going to try to step on the inauguration by announcing his reelection.
So
or new campaign.
So this is unprecedented territory. What happens? Does he leave the White House the day before?
He better.
Because Biden gets sworn in and he still ain't left yet. So give me a few minutes. I'm getting my stuff together. I mean, what?
I hope he's gone tomorrow. Get the hell out of there.
I mean, what's the date you actually? I guess by noon, you have to vacate the premises.
Yeah, he never wanted to be there anyway, right? He was always down in frickin' Mar-a-Lago, right? So get down there now. What's he still doing in the White House? Now he wants to stay in the White House? When the American people said get the heck out?
Yeah, just go ahead and go.
Just go.
Well, this is going to be something. But even that drama is what he's going to count on for coverage and publicity. And the challenge, I think, for the mainstream media is going to be how to ignore him, how to stop giving him as much publicity as they've given him. But the craziest stuff he does, I'm not leaving, or I'm leaving early, or just something crazy. I got my own moving trucks. All of that. It's going to be, I think it's going to be challenging for them to ignore. I just hope they figure out a way to do it.
Well, Mark, the news media continues to obsess over the Trump voter, right? Let's go back and talk to Trump voters like they did for the last 4 years. And now, there's a story in the New York Times, I think, Washington Post, about how did Trump get 72 million votes, right? I haven't seen the story. How did Biden get 80 million?
Thank you. Biden
just crushed it. Unprecedented coalition of, voters of color, young people, suburban whites that turned out in record numbers, urban whites. This coalition delivered 80 million votes, just crushed all previous records. Where's that story? Why aren't they talking to those people in the diner?
Yeah.
No, but when Trump won, you had to go to the diner and talk to Trump voters. Nobody's talking to Biden voters, particularly not the brown ones or the black ones or the Asian ones or the American Indian ones. Like that's not what's happening.
Yeah, it's incredible. Okay, real quick, before I forget.
Okay.
The any on civics, any thing new that's telltale about the coronavirus outbreak concern or the government response? Are any new numbers revealing anything, or pretty much steady?
I'm trying to. It's actually been it's been about a week since I've looked, so I don't have anything up to date and fresh and brand new. Last I saw, though, concern was moving up amongst independents. Democrats have already been sky high, right? So they're not moving. Republicans think it's all a hoax, so they've been down. So there's been a little bit of movement. What I've noticed is that in the perception of how the economy is doing, suddenly Republicans are like, well, the economy's not doing so great. Now that Joe Biden won the election. But that also tells us that even though Republicans claim that they think Biden stole the election, and I think a poll said 80% think that Biden stole the election. When you look at direction of the country, it's totally flipping, right? Republicans who used to think things were great, have sort of plummeted, which means that they know that they lost and that Biden is going to be president. So, but there's this inflection. We saw it in 2016 as well after Trump won, where Republicans thought the economy was crap. And then the day after Trump won, the economy's doing great. So it is a lot of those answers are really not based on what people actually believe. It's what team they're on. Yeah. And now that Biden is going to be president, now the economy is crap. And who knows, maybe they'll start thinking coronavirus is a real concern and people dying of it are a problem. I mean, I wouldn't complain if that was the case, if they started taking the virus seriously.
Yeah. Just because Biden's president. Oh, Corona's killing us. What do you do something about it? Yeah. Just kind of like we like the ACA, but we don't like Obamacare. So it just depends.
Exactly.
Folks, dailycoast.com. Check out Markos. Check out Daily Coast every day. Check out Civics with a Q if you like. Become a part of the sample also if you like. And also The Brief, Markos's new show on YouTube airs on Tuesdays.
And the shows are up there too, the archives.
Yeah, the archives up there.
So this is my new toy, I guess. It's my new experiment.
You enjoying it?
Mark, I'm liking it more than I thought I would.
Really? Okay, good.
Yeah, I've never been a be in front of a camera kind of person, but it's giving me an excuse to talk to some really cool people, and I think that just suddenly makes it that much more interesting and fun.
Well, full disclosure, a few years ago when I first started talking to Markos folks about doing Thursday Coast on camera, he said, I don't want to be on camera. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
So this is unprecedented, that what we've been able to do. and getting this going. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, Mark, you helped. You made me more comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah, because at first you're like, I want to be on the camera.
Yeah.
But now we got you on camera, so that's
Yes.
a good thing.
Cool.
All right, man. Thursday Coast, folks. That's Markos. Thank you, Markos.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Please mask up. Be safe.
Mask up and be safe, indeed. Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, subscribe, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.